First up, Secretary of State Mac Warner, thank you for joining us again. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Gary, for having me.
You obviously have been busy. Oh, and I wanted to let you know, too, that your communications director there, Mike Queen, has been hard at work. He gave me enough information to do this show and two more this week for a full hour. So we may cover a lot of territory this morning.
That sounds good. We are a very busy office.
Yeah, he mentioned you just. He mentioned you just got back from a National Association of Secretaries of State meeting, a summer conference, I guess, and cybersecurity was one of the key issues at that. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it was a very neat conference. Had secretaries of state from all over the nation there, so it's great to see the regional flavors. You know,
sure.
You still have the states' rights battles going on with the federal government, stemming all the way back to the Civil War, and it shows even today. So that's what makes those interesting. But the cybersecurity issue is one that has been hanging around now for just about a year, because it was about a year ago now that were the first indications that there was potential pinging or hacking of election registration databases and so forth. And apparently, at least two states did have some hacking that occurred that actually got into the databases. Now, nothing nefarious, nothing wrong, like voting or data was changed during those events.
Yeah, trying to manipulate it from in. Yeah, okay.
It caused trouble or caused concern for all of us. So all of our antenna went up, and those are the type things that we've been talking about. Cutting to the chase here, we in West Virginia, I took on the point of asking for security clearances for the Secretaries of State nationwide, because we need to be able to talk to DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and the things that they know they need to be able to relate to the chief elections officers in the states, and those are typically the Secretaries of State. For about a year now, I don't want to say we've been stonewalled, but we haven't had that full communication because of they couldn't tell us certain things because of security clearances and so forth. So I did ask the DHS representative. He assured us that he would get us those security clearances, and then I followed that up with a letter to Director Kelly.
You sent a letter, yeah, right.
And asked him specifically, and all indications are that, yes, they are going to work with us and get us those clearances. And then here within West Virginia, I intend to work with our National Guard because they have some special capabilities to look at and work with DHS and to know what's going on in the cyber world. So we've already started that communication, the dialogue between us, and I think once we get these security clearances in place, then I will be able to act on that information and put in the proper procedures to at least combat from the state level this perhaps international pinging or hacking that appears to be going on.
Secretary Warner, at these summer conferences where you network with all the other secretaries of state from around the country, do you come across issues where you kind of think, gee, we should be doing that too, and we're not?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the great thing about these conferences.
Sure.
We get to hear what is working in other states, what is not working. Like I said, in these hacking situations, Arizona was one of these that had their databases hacked, and we heard from the Secretary of State from Arizona at the previous conference things that happened and how she addressed those and what's her recommendations to us as to how to make ours either more secure, or once something has happened, then how to address it, how to shut it down, and make sure the backup systems and so that sort of thing that they put in place. So yes, it's a great place to share information, and you have these 50 laboratories across the U.S., and it's best to hear from people that are dealing with these issues.
They're on to another subject. There's been a great deal of very public pushback against the president's advisory commission on election integrity. Requests were made of all states, I guess. And I think at this point now you have responded or explained in what manner West Virginia intends to respond. Give us some clarification of the issues as secretaries of state see them, and how West Virginia intends to respond.
Well, I appreciate you asking, and appreciate this opportunity to explain to the listening audience that to me it was rather straightforward, because the request came and it asked for that information that is publicly releasable, that is allowed by state code. Now, a lot of people blew right past that qualifying language And then the letter did request such as, and it had the list of information. So let me clarify for people.
Yeah, it kind of caught me that there was such pushback when they said that this is stuff that would routinely be available. I couldn't understand why there was so much attention focused on not responding.
Well, so much attention was paid because it became a political football immediately.
Okay.
It didn't need to be. And so what is publicly available, anybody can get on, and typically the parties, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, whatever, the various parties get this information because they want to help their candidates, and the candidates don't want to send mail or information out to people who are non-voters, who aren't registered, or people who haven't voted in the last several elections. Those are people that have expressed or shown that they simply aren't wanting to participate in the political process. Mm-hmm. They want to spend their money on people who are voting on a regular basis. And so what is publicly available through our website are people's names, their addresses, their political party, and then whether they voted. Not how they voted, but just did you vote, did you participate or not in the last election or whatever elections you want to go back to. So that is what is publicly available to everybody. What is not publicly available are things like emails, phone numbers, Social Security,
right?
Yeah. And see, this is all laid out in West Virginia code. It's in there 3 or 4 times, saying specifically the same thing. It's consistent throughout our code. So to me, it wasn't a huge question. You follow code, you release, and for this purposes of this commission, the commission has to pay for that information. Just like anybody else.
I was going to say, and you're going to send them an invoice, right?
That's right. So if they pay the $1,000 or whatever, we'll provide those 4 things that I mentioned: name, address, party affiliation, and whether they voted. And that's what's available. And that's pretty much the case across the United States.
Yeah.
But it was just people in various news or perhaps secretaries of state that wanted to make a splash. They can jump in the Gulf of Mexico and Mississippi's a good place to do it from, or there isn't enough bourbon in Kentucky or whatever. But that's just not my style. I just wanted to follow the law and get the work done.
All right, so on to the next topic, which is a huge road bond vote in this state in October. Most folks have heard that the legislature passed tax increases, mostly that'll be effected through the DMV, to the tune of about $130 million a year, which is not going to fix a lot of roads or infrastructure. So the state wants to have voters decide on almost a $3 billion road bond, which would enable them to start a lot of projects right at the outset. Now, you're going to have to work with county clerks, obviously, because this throws an election at them that they weren't anticipating.
They are spun up, but they're all doing what's got to be done. And think of the work that needs to be done with regards to if there's going to be a precinct change or getting the early voting and the absentee ballots, all the stuff that goes into an election, the poll workers. And I can assure you, many clerks are looking for, and the commissions are looking for poll workers, because it's October 7th. It's a festival day, one of the largest festivals in the state is taking place that day, and everybody knows it's just it's a Saturday, and people are busy, and so I want to encourage people to get out and vote, express your opinion at the poll as to whether you think that this bonding is a good way to go to fix the roads. Everybody knows we need to get roads and infrastructure fixed, but whether this is a vehicle to do it, this amount of money in this number of years, that's the question that the voters have to decide.
Well, that's true, and it's the folks that have supported this, in particular our governor, have almost talked in terms of desperation because they now need the economic boost that would come from these infrastructure improvements and the workers that would be hired, the projects, the taxes, in order to balance the current budget. They kind of balance the budget in the hopes that this would in fact pass.
And then their issue is then working with the legislature, because if this bond passes, then the legislature is going to be in a position to have to raise taxes to pay the debt on this and so forth. So it was a rough session this last 6 months, to get this budget passed, and I think some toes were stepped on in the process, and hopefully a lot of that healing will occur here in the State House, and we can get on with the people's business. But that's why this election is so important.
Yeah.
We need to hear what the voters think if we're going in the right direction.
As you suggest, most county clerks jump in and say, hey, we'll get the job done. Other than poll workers and the logistics of possible precinct or polling place changes, any other ways that you help? Does the state pay for this? Do the counties get reimbursed?
The counties will get reimbursed.
Okay.
You have to put the money up front.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's going to be between $2 and $3 million to run this special election. And it will be just the one issue, either yes or no, whether you support the bond proposal or not. So a rather straightforward issue, but it's all very important to get people out to vote. And
there will be early voting? I think I heard you say that.
Yes, there will be early voting, and there will be absentee if you can't make it for early voting or on election day. You can do the regular absentee ballot. So pretty much just like any general election.
Okay, yeah.
It's just going to be a much more simple ballot.
All right, well, go ahead.
The early voting will begin September 22nd. Okay. The last day, if you are not registered, the last day to register is September 18th. So we're just a month and a half away from when this all starts taking place. Let me do a quick plug that this is the National Disability Voter Registration
That was my last
Week.
question. We timed this out well. Go ahead. I was going to ask you that.
Well, this is just the week that we focus on people with disabilities, that we want to make sure that they register to vote, and so they can participate in the process. And they just hold a special place in our society, and they have special needs or concerns, and this is their opportunity. There's a little slogan, Rev Up, the REV, the register, educate, and vote, and then the F is to use your power. And let me just mention, there are so many people in West Virginia who volunteer for our armed services. And then, unfortunately, and I know many myself, and my son and daughter both that have served in Afghanistan have classmates who have been wounded, and so I think about those folks and the special needs that they have, and the place for them to express their concerns and interests are at the ballot box.
Yeah, you would hate to think that they're not being accommodated.
Right, and that's for people with all disabilities. I just focused on that because of some personal friend situations recently.
Understandably, yeah.
But that's why I want to fully support and encourage people to register across the board, disabilities or not. But this just happens to be Disability Week. The governor put out a proclamation, and I just want to make sure all the listeners know that. So if there is somebody with a disability or you know someone, please get them out, get them on our website to register, or go see your county clerk.
I think you did ask the clerks, some of the clerks, to do a little media blitz on their own, did you not?
We did.
Yeah,
just encouraging the clerks to. Yeah. And this is just, I think, the second year of this particular week being designated, so it is somewhat of a new program, and that's why we're trying to get the word out.
West Virginia Secretary of State Mac Warner, we covered a lot of ground. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.